2020 was our first full year of running a small farm business. Now, there was some startup costs in 2019, like planting our first hay field and purchasing most of our hay equipment. But 2020 was the first real year of running a small farm business. My main goal is to create a debt-free small farm business that utilizes the one resource that we have, and that is land. We have just over 41 acres of land here on our property, and we want to use it to grow premium hay and grass-fed livestock that we can sell for profit. My plan is to build the farm over the course of several years while I am still working full-time, and to have the farm established and profitable by the time I retire. My plan is to retire early in my 50s and to run the farm and enjoy life. Now, most people don't know how old I am. I am actually 44 years old, and my 50s are not that far away. So I can see that in a few years, I'll be wanting to retire as early as I can, quit my job, and just be able to be out here and enjoy life while raising livestock. Since my number one goal is to create this business debt-free, I created a 5-year business plan and a 5-year budget that reflected all the costs involved in running the business and building the business over the course of those 5 years. So at the beginning of 2020, I had a budget set and I had a list of goals that I wanted to accomplish. So we're going to look at my farm budget, and we're going to see how I have that all laid out, and then we're going to compare it to what I actually spent and what we actually accomplished in 2020. And then after that, we're going to look at the 5-year business plan that I have and how I think that the next 5 years looks at building my business. So before we get into the budget, I need to just put out a little disclaimer here. My budget, the numbers in my budget are based completely off of my records, off of the receipts that I have, everything I have on file. So you will see there's going to be some things in there that I didn't spend any money on. And some of those things are because I don't have the receipts for them. It's not that I actually didn't spend money, it's that I don't have the records to prove that I spent money on them. So keep good records. So for example, one of the things you will see is you will see that there's no diesel fuel cost, and you know that I ran tractors. It's because I don't have the receipts for the diesel fuel. So I probably paid for about 15 gallons in diesel fuel to do the hay this year, and I don't have that in my budget because I didn't have the receipts. So small little disclaimer there. The budget is not 100% right. The budget is exactly what I could legally account for through receipts. So my farm budget is broken into 4 expense categories. Now, the first category is livestock expenses, which are expenses associated with raising livestock, such as feed cost, fencing repairs, livestock purchases, and pasture maintenance. The second category is hay expenses. Of course, this is anything that is associated with growing and baling hay. And I have included the tractor costs and tractor repairs in this category because that is the main use of the tractors, is for hay here on the farm. So the third category is overhead expenses. Now this includes more overall and shared costs like utilities and insurance and barn repairs. So the last category is capital expenses. Now these are usually some big purchases like buying new equipment. It also could be new infrastructure that you're installing on the property. So now these will change from year to year as we're developing our farm. Our income is made up of hay sales and livestock sales. We also have some land rental income that will eventually go away as we convert our farm fields into pastures. So my major goals in 2020 were to cut and bale hay for the first time, and we did achieve that goal. My goal was to keep 200 bales of hay and to sell 250 bales, a total of 450 bales of hay. Well, the reality of it was we only ended up with 288 bales. So I ended up only selling 125 of those bales. So we didn't end up with as much hay and as much hay to sell as that I had predicted. Another goal I had at the beginning of 2020 was to make repairs to the livestock barn back here. In fact, I was going to open up the back side of this livestock barn and make that into an open shed where that I would have a place to feed animals hay or to shelter animals if I needed. Now that never ended up happening. Instead, what we ended up doing is we created our equipment parking area. We cleared that one area out, we put gravel down, and we moved the big carport over there so that we could park all our hay equipment, our tractors, our discs, and all that stuff ended up going over there. Another goal that we had was to build a compost bin, and we did do that. We built 2 compost bins and are currently trying to create our own compost. Another goal we set for ourselves was to fence in our pasture area, and we did get that done, but we didn't get it quite done by the end of the year. It went a couple weeks into January before we got that finished. Another goal we had was to purchase our first set of livestock to raise. It was either going to be cows or sheep, whatever we decided on, and that never did happen because the fencing took so long to put in, we never got a chance to buy livestock. And going along with that goal, we planned on making hay feeders or buying hay feeders and stock tanks for those new livestock. And of course that never happened in 2020 also. So overall, our farm income was about $500 lower than expected. Now that's due to overestimating the amount of hay that we would produce. Overhead expenses were lower since we didn't end up repairing the livestock barn. Livestock expenses were also lower because we didn't end up purchasing the cows or sheep that we planned to do. And our hay expenses ended up being higher due to the expense of extra hay equipment that I purchased and all the repairs that had to be made to the equipment and the tractors last year. Now my capital expenses were fairly close. They were about $500 more than what I had estimated. So overall, at the end of 2020, on paper, the farm shows up as a loss of about $7,500. Now, I personally do not look at it as a loss. I look at that as that was $7,500 that I invested into a small farm business that I am creating and that I am starting up and building over time. Now, I will continue to invest probably a similar amount each year for the next few years as I build this and develop this farm over time without going into debt. And hopefully, if the plan goes true, in 5 or 6 years, this farm will be fully developed and it will be a profitable small farm. Now let's take a look at my 5-year farm budget, and then we'll look at the major goals that I've set for myself each year as I build the farm. So this is set up exactly the same as the budget we just looked at for 2020, except there's a total of 5 years worth of information here. Now, at the bottom of each year, there is a list of goals that I want to try to accomplish that year on the farm. And then that year's budget is adjusted accordingly for how much I think that those goals are going to cost. So in 2021, our first goal is to plant a second hay field. We've got another 3-acre farm field here in the back of the property, and we plan on turning that into hay. Now we also plan on buying our first feeder calves this year, hopefully here pretty soon. And if that all works out, and if we like that, I think right now our plan is we will just buy feeder calves every year, and then we will grow them out on pasture, and we will raise grass-fed beef that we can sell to consumers. Now we also plan on testing our pastures this year. We're going to do a soil test on our pasture, and we are going to amend the pasture accordingly, bring it up to the right pH so that we've got a good base, a basis to be able to grow a nice healthy pasture. I also plan on buying a manure spreader, and I'm planning on using it with the compost that we're making and use it to fertilize our hay fields. We can, use our own compost to fertilize our hay field instead of buying chemical fertilizers to put on the hay field. We'll be fertilizing more naturally and with something that we created here on our farm. So for our hay production, we have a lot better idea of how much hay we're going to produce in 2021 now that we've baled in 2020. So basing it off of those numbers, I'm only going to plan on selling 125 bales of hay, and then we are going to just keep the rest for our animals. Now at the front of the property, we have our billy goats at the front, and they have temporary electric netting, some temporary fencing put up, and I want to put permanent fencing for the billy goat pasture. And I want to shoot for somewhere close to 1/2 of an acre fenced in for the billy goats, and that'll bring our total pastures up to about 1.8 acres. Now I know that doesn't sound like much, but the plan is we're going to add a little bit of pasture every year until we finally get the amount of pasture we want. So let's go ahead and look at my goals for 2022. I do plan on purchasing a round baler, a small round baler, like a 4x4. Some of those are small enough. They don't require as much horsepower, and I should be able to run one with the tractors that I have. My tractors are around 60 horsepower, and hoping to find one that I can run on my tractors. Now, why would I buy a round baler if I already have a square baler? Well, sometimes it's not real convenient to get out there and to bale the hay and get it stacked in the barn. Sometimes you're pressed for time. So a round baler will allow me to get out there and just get it baled, and then I can come back and pick it up and store it on my own time. So it just gives me another option. Also gives me a backup in case my other baler has problems. So 2022 should be the first year that I'll be able to harvest the second hay field that I'm planning on planting this year. So that should up the amount of bales that I can sell. So I'm planning on trying to sell 350 bales that year. Also in 2022, I want to take this white pole barn that's at the front of our property. There's several repairs that I need to do to it. But while I'm making those repairs, I want to make some modifications to it, and I want to turn that into another livestock barn. Now I can also use that into a place where I can store additional hay as well, another place to store hay. And then I want to take this area from our driveway here over to this fence line over here. I want to fence this all in and make this another pasture area. That's going to give me another acre or so of pasture. That's going to bring me up to about 2.8 acres of pasture. Now I know that's still not very much, but we're just keeping adding more every year. So moving on to 2023, I'm planning on finally making repairs to the livestock barn and trying to get that all fixed up. So there is several things that need to be done. There are posts in there that need to be replaced. Of course, this back side of the barn, I want to redo the back side of the barn to make a lean-to shelter on the back. And then overall, the thing needs probably painted, and it may need a whole new roof. So try to repair the bank barn, this old bank barn, in 2023. Now I also want to take our 12-acre farm field in the front of our property, and I want to plant that into pasture. And then I also want to fence in that 12-acre field, creating a whole new pasture area. And that will bring us up to close to 15 acres worth of pasture. Also in 2023, we have a old well that's over here, and I would like to put a new well pump in there, get the electricity back out to the well, get that working. And then I want to run all new water lines from the well and run them out to all of our pastures. And I want to put water points in several areas to accommodate doing rotational grazing. So now moving on to 2024, all the infrastructure should now be in place. We should have all our pastures fenced in. We should have all our water ran. We've got our 2 livestock barns. Everything should be in place. So there's no major expenses or improvements planned for 2024. And hopefully, if we meet all of those goals beforehand, 2024 will be the first year that we run a profit on the farm. So there you have it, guys. That is my budget and my plan to turn our property into a small farm. Now you can see that there is several things that need to be accomplished, and it's going to take several years to get there. But in the end, I should be debt-free, running a small farm, and enjoying life. So stick with me over the next 5 years and we'll see what happens. Well, I think that pretty much covers everything. So I think that's it for this video, guys. I do want to thank all you guys who are following along with us on our journey. And I want to thank all you guys out there who have, gone to our website and directly supported us through buying a hoodie or a t-shirt that is sold directly through us, and that directly helps us, toward our dream and building our farm. So thank you guys very much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.